Good morning, everybody. Today we're going to talk about, we're going to continue our conversation about inverse trigonometric functions. So we're going to look at problems like this. Okay, find the exact value of the arc sine of the sine of 5 pi over 4. So your first thought might be, oh, let's just cancel out the arc sine and the sine. But the question is, can you really do that? So we better go look at a trig chart, which I've got one right here. Okay, and it said find the arc sine of the sine. So we're going to go to 5 pi over 4, and we're going to take the sine. That's going to take us right here to negative square root of 2 over 2. Okay, so this part right here, we're going to do this part first. Okay, so the arc sine of the sine of 5 pi over 4 is negative square root of 2 over 2. Okay, now we got to arc sine this. So we'll go back to our chart again. Remember we went from here, 5 pi over 4, we took the sine, that was here. Okay, but we can't go back because remember you can only arc sine in the first and the fourth sector of this. So we're going to jump down here. This is where we want to be right here. There's our negative square root of 2 over 2. So in the fourth quadrant, we're going to jump over here. Remember, we're going to skip past this because we don't use that. We're going to use this one right here because arc sine only has answers between negative pi over 2 and pi over 2. So the answer to this is going to be negative pi over 4. So we'll jump back here. This equals negative pi over 4. Now this is an example of one of those where you cannot cancel out the arc sine and the sine. Okay? So be careful of that. Now let's look at this one. The sine of the arctangent of 1/2. So the first thing we want to do is we want to arctangent 1/2. So we jump over here to our chart, and nowhere on the chart is there a 1/2. So what do? Well, we go back and we think about this a little bit. Remember, if I arctangent, the answer is an angle. So this is really, I'm just trying to find the sine of theta. Okay? Because this is my angle theta. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a sketch of this. I've got a right triangle. Here's theta. Since this is the arctangent, that means this is the opposite and this is the adjacent. Remember, if I'm arctangenting something, this is the tangent. Okay? The tangent is the opposite over the adjacent. So I'm going to go ahead and put the opposite as 1 and the adjacent as 2. And then I'm going to use the Pythagorean theorem to find out the hypotenuse. So that would be 1 squared plus 2 squared is 1 plus 4, which is 5. And then, of course, I go to square root that. Okay? So this is square root of 5. So this is the triangle that's going on in this picture. Now, I need to sine that. Okay, so what's the sine of this angle? Because this is an angle, remember. So what's the sine of that angle? Well, the sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse, which I need to rationalize because that's got a square root on the bottom. So that's going to end up being square root of 5 over 5. And you can actually check that on your graphing calculator. So if you want to check that, okay, we're going to go sine of the arc sine of 1/2, close both sets of parentheses, comes out to be 0.44721. Okay, if we take the square root of 5 and divide that by 5, hey, we get exactly the same answer. So that worked out for us. Okay, we're going to do this one similarly. So the cosine of the arc sine of negative 1/3. Negative 1/3 is not on my trig chart anywhere. Okay, so I think about, okay, this really means the cosine of theta. Okay, so I'm going to have a right triangle. Here's theta. All right, now the sine. The sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse. So I'm going to make the sine negative 1 and the hypotenuse 3. Or the opposite negative 1. The hypotenuse is always positive, remember. So actually, this picture doesn't look like this. It actually looks like this. Okay, so let's go ahead and just make this go away. Okay, now I'm going to figure out what this side is using the Pythagorean theorem. So that would be x squared plus negative 1 squared equals 3 squared. So x squared plus 1 equals 9. X squared is 8. X is the square root of 8, which is the square root of 4 times the square root of 2, which is 2 square roots of 2. So this side here is 2 square root of 2. Okay, now what's the cosine? The cosine is the adjacent over the hypotenuse, right? So the adjacent is 2 square root of 2, and the hypotenuse is 3, and there's my answer. Okay, find the exact value of the arc cosecant of 2. And I think that one might be on our chart. So let's go back and look. Yeah, arc cosecant of 2. It's going to be right here, right? So arc cosecant takes me back here, pi over 6. So this is an easy one to do. It's just pi over 6. Okay, use a calculator to approximate the angle in radians. All right, so here we're going to go. This is pretty simple. You're just going to make sure your calculator's in radians, right? Now, arc cosecant. A lot of calculators do not have arc cosecant. Okay, so what do I do? Well, let's think about this. The arc cosecant, that is 1 over the arc cosine. Not of 3. Let's see. Arc cosecant. So this is an angle. Whoops. So theta is equal to that. So that tells me the secant of theta is 3, which tells me the cosine of theta is 1/3. So I can arc cosine 1/3. So does everybody see what I did here? I moved the secant to the other side. Remember, when you arc secant something, the answer is an angle. So I secant both sides to cancel that out. I get secant theta is 3. I remember that, well, if secant theta is 3, then the cosine of theta is 1/3. And then I arc cosine 1/3. So here we go. Arc cosine 1 divided by 3. And the answer is approximately 1.23095. Okay, so let's do this one. Arc cosecant of -4. So remember, theta is the arc cosecant of -4. So if I cosecant both sides, cosecant theta is -4, which means that the sine of theta is -1/4. So I can arc sine -1/4, and I get approximately -0.2527. Okay, I'll let you do this one on your own, so you can pause the video here, do it just like I just did the other ones, and then jump back on and compare your answer. Okay, so this would have been theta is equal to arc cotangent of 1/2. So I'm going to cotangent both sides. Oops. And then if the cotangent of theta is 1/2, that means the tangent of theta is 2. So now I'm going to arc tangent 2. second tangent 2. And I get approximately 1.107. Okay. So we're done with this lesson right here. It's a short one today. Here is your assignment. Okay, 21 problems. Good luck with that, and I will see you next time.